Let's look at this year's NFL draft prospects signed with VaynerSports, the agency of Gary V and his brother AJ. Let's start it out with TCU quarterback Max Duggan. Led the TCU Horned Frogs all the way to the national championship this year after he started the season as the backup quarterback, was in a quarterback competition at TCU, wound up getting the start in week 2, really shined versus Tarleton State, threw for 5 touchdowns, and held on to the job from there, led TCU to an undefeated regular season, was a Heisman finalist, did fall in the Big 12 championship to Kansas State, and eventually the national title to Georgia in a real blowout. But you have to look at Max Duggan's success this season and wonder what his potential is for the NFL. He's going to enter the league as a raw, untapped quarterback, but his toughness, his physicality, his ability to stand in the pocket and withstand hits and deliver strong throws, and also his physicality as a runner and his athleticism. This is a guy with an NFL caliber arm, a real strong arm with some velocity on it. I'm a fan of Duggan. He was my 10th quarterback in me and Joe Vaughn's quarterback ranking podcast. The Dallas Cowboys have expressed some interest in Duggan. He's certainly got NFL upside. Next up, let's look at UCLA running back Zach Charbonnet, a physical, powerful runner who can still get shifty in the open field. With his big frame at 6 foot 214, he ran a 4.53 40 last month in the NFL Combine. Began his college career back in Michigan, started there in 2019, had 149 carries, 726 yards, and 11 touchdowns, wound up transferring to UCLA after the COVID season in 2020, split touches in a UCLA backfield with Britton Brown, now a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. But in 2021, Charbonnet had 203 carries, 1,137 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Followed it up this year with his best season, 195 carries, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 37 receptions. That last part really catches my eye. 37 receptions at his size, with his frame, with his ability to be a physical, powerful runner. You put that in space against smaller DBs, I think Charbonnet has a lot of upside, not just in that, but also inside the tackles, his physical mentality, his ability to grind out 3 to 4 yards a carry. Charbonnet is going to be an interesting one, definitely someone to watch on day 3 of the NFL draft. Looking at UVA wide receiver Dontayvion Wicks, a well-rounded pass catcher, really reliable. Love the way he works off the line of scrimmage, really clean, and does a great job creating separation for himself in his routes as well. Had an outstanding season in 2021, 1,203 yards, 21 yards per catch, that was 5th in the nation, and 9 touchdowns. Battled some injuries earlier this year, 30 catches, 430 yards, 2 touchdowns in 8 games. Was really a reliable pass catcher, one of Brennan Armstrong's favorite targets during his time at Virginia. Armstrong's heading to NC State next year. Wicks was the Senior Bowl's American Team Receiver Practice Player of the Week. Really shined in one-on-ones. Thought he did a good job against a good group of corners. Wicks is going to be a guy who I'm certainly rooting for after everything that Virginia program went through this year. Really looking forward to seeing what Wicks and cornerback Anthony Johnson do at the next level. Let's head to the defensive side of the ball. Mike Morris, a defensive end out of Michigan, coming in at 6'5", 275. He was the Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year this season and a first-team All-Big Ten selection after recording 11.5 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks. He played opposite Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo, 2 first-round talents. Hutchinson is also a member of the VaynerSports agency. Morris contributed some last year, made 4 starts, but this was really his breakout season. He was the Wolverines' top defensive end, played alongside Mozzie Smith, Michigan's defensive tackle. When we're looking at Mike Morris, he has a really talented set of pass rush moves. I love the way he gets off the ball, and I love the way that he plays with strong hands. Really does a good job not even letting offensive linemen get into his pads. Does a great job in the pass rush game. I think Morris will develop as a pass rusher in the NFL, probably a day 2 or day 3 guy, but someone who's going to win in the NFL. Another edge rusher for this VaynerSports class is DJ Johnson, coming in at 6'4", 260. I became a big fan of his game while I was preparing for this video. This year he had 39 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks. That was a career high for him in sacks. Came in 5th in the Pac-12 in total sacks. Really highlighted by his 2-sack performance this year versus Cal. When you're looking at Johnson, back in 2020, he transitioned from defensive end to tight end. Caught 3 touchdowns as a tight end at Oregon, had a touchdown versus USC back in 2021, spent 98 snaps at tight end that year, contributed on all 3 phases of the ball, defense, special teams, and at tight end on offense. Went back to the full-time defense, edge rusher last season. Like I mentioned, career high in sacks, really physical, powerful pass rusher, similar to Mike Morris. They have a lot of similarities. When I look at Johnson, I see more of a run stuffer, though. I love the way he plays in the run game. He's powerful at the point of contact, has really strong hands, and does a good job disengaging offensive linemen. This year at the NFL Combine, he put up a 4.49 40, 32-inch vert, and 28 bench press reps. DJ Johnson's a guy I'm a big fan of. I think he's an NFL defensive lineman and someone who's going to contribute a lot in the run game. Finally, let's look at Terell Smith, a cornerback out of Minnesota who has a lot of experience, over 30 career starts, and even more than that in appearances during his college career at Minnesota. This season started all 13 games, had 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups, a forced fumble to go along with 38 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. I really like how fluid he is in coverage. He really caught my eye last year when I was scouting Coney Durr, a member of the Hula Bowl, a draft prospect from last season, and then he really jumped back onto my radar during his performance this year at the East-West Shrine Bowl. I thought Smith looked really smooth in practice. He really caught my eye, looked good in the game as well. I think that this is a guy who not only in coverage, but also his aggressive mentality and run support. He's coming in at 6 foot, 204 pounds. I like the way that he plays. I like how willing he is to contribute in the run game. I think that kind of shows in the 4.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. I think this is an NFL cornerback next year.